Good morning and welcome to this live stream brought to you by the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm Helen Down and I'm the CEO of the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce you to Victoria Fraser. Welcome, Victoria. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here.
Great. So Victoria is the owner of Victoria Fraser Wellbeing and joined the Chamber in April this year, and as a published author, experienced teacher and a workshop facilitator. Victoria has worked with the Singapore High Commission, taught business and economics in Qatar, and facilitated training for staff at tertiary education providers such as the University of Waikato. So her information this morning that she's going to share with us, I'm sure we'll find very useful. Victoria works with small business professionals to create individual, group and organisational development and wellbeing practices for a better work-life balance. Victoria brings thought leadership to her clients, providing the tools and techniques to help professionals navigate stress, work challenges and difficult circumstances in the workplace. So we're all very well aware of the pressure businesses under currently with labour shortages. And so one of the things that doesn't get discussed very often is how labour shortages put so much pressure on those who are actually employed and who are trying to hold things together while their employers trying to find more staff. So a really good topic for us to cover this morning, and I'm sure many of us will find that useful. So Victoria, great to have you here, and I look forward to listening to your presentation and the information you're going to share.
Great, thank you so much, Helen. And as you touched on, it is a very topical point in time with staff retention rates very low and our own stresses within our work-life balance being blurred. So I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint, and that's going to focus on 3 different areas that will be beneficial for you, your employees, and your business. So we're going to begin just by recognizing if we are well, we work well, and going to go through this PowerPoint looking at different elements and practices that you need for a successful and well team. So as Helen mentioned, I help business owners and individuals implement and manage wellbeing practices inside and outside of the workplace. And my whole reason why I do this is I'm really passionate about individuals reaching their fullest potential, and having these effective wellbeing practices are important not only for your business and its success, but the people's performance, the productivity, your purpose, and at the end of the day, profits, as well as staff retention. So being well and working well is about your state of happiness for both you and your employees. And I know of myself, I've experienced burnout when I was in the teaching industry. I've got friends, family members, we've all gone through different mental, physical health issues. We've all encountered stress. And I think with the COVID-19, we've all had to pivot and navigate, and that stress has had a residual output on our lives. And I think it's really important if we ask ourselves, are we getting a fair transaction in our work-life balance? So if we are well, we can work well. And as we mentioned, this is going to increase your productivity. You're going to have more purpose and drive within your day. At the end of the day, that's going to equal more profits, and therefore your business can grow. So if we look at your organization, we can break it down into 3 different areas. You've got your owners and your managers, you've got your employees, and then you've got your home and personal life. And quite often we, in the past, have separated business and work. But due to our current climate, we've got very blurred lines between home and work-life balance. We work from home, we do work at home, and so we actually bring home issues into work and work issues into our home. So actually looking at all of them is really important now. So we'll start looking at our employees, and a good way to start looking at wellbeing practices within your company is to think about what are the biggest challenges that your employees encounter in the workplace. And you can do this through different ways. You can do it through surveys, you can do it through just directly asking them, but knowing what your employees' pain points are the most important, and that's a really effective way to improve your workplace well-being, because every business is going to have different pain points. And this also allows your employees to have a sense of agency and ownership, making them feel involved, heard, and seen. And as mentioned, you can do this in a non-invasive way through anonymous surveys such as SurveyMonkey, and then some questions that you could ask around could be around the environment. Your workplace environment plays a really important role. Their hours, workload, social aspects within the workplace. And if you have open-ended questions, you're going to give them a sense of space to talk about whatever's on top for them. So we'll go through some examples about how you could hear your employees and some questions that you could ask them. So one question could be, what helps you stay mentally healthy at work? So for example, do they actually take an adequate, good enough lunch break away from your desk? I know I'm very guilty of this, working while you're eating, getting some exercise before or after work or in your lunch break. What is the office environment like? Is there opportunities to get to know the people they work with? Another question could be, what can your manager do to proactively support you to stay mentally healthy at work? So for example, do you and your employees have regular feedback and catch-ups, creating that relationship? Is there flexible working patterns? And explaining wider organizational developments. Again, that makes your employees feel valued and part of your organization. And a third example could be, are there situations at work that can trigger poor mental health? So is there conflict within the workplace? Is the culture not quite right? Is there lots of change going on that employees don't know how to work with? Is there tight deadlines? Or is there something just not going to plan? And so these are things that you don't know what your employees are feeling, but knowing them could help you make changes. So there's many benefits for allowing your employees to speak up. They feel seen, heard, included, and it's more of a bottom-up organizational structure as opposed to a top-down. And having that wide approach enhances the culture at the same time. And then therefore that increases productivity, and people feel more happy, less stressed, and a lot more comfortable. Again, they will feel supported, and that is in turn going to help your staff retention, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be problems, but feeling safe to talk through them is really important. And they're going to feel like they're getting development within their workplace at the same time. So now if we look at owners and managers in terms of wellbeing practices, if you just think about this in your mind for a moment, what are the biggest challenges that you find in regards to work-life balance? And I'm sure most owners and managers say they never stop, they just always work from home, constantly checking emails, they don't have a work-life balance, always putting out fires, don't have enough time. These are all common things that I've heard. If we look at them separately, it could be motivation. I know once you're constantly working, the motivation levels dip. It could be your mindset, maybe negative, positive mindsets. Time is always a barrier, having boundaries between work and home, expectations of yourself, your business, the board, and your employees, always having cash flow or growth problems, and always fighting fires. So there is some solutions that we could look at to help decrease these problems, and that is creating a wellness plan for yourself and your employees, and we're all different, so they're going to be individual. We could look at adopting new attitudes, expectations, enhancing your communication, looking at your different boundaries or putting boundaries in place. Looking at your mindset, your productivity, and outsourcing some tasks could help free up some of your time. And then even looking at the physical environment, the workplace adjustments, hours, environment, workload, and maybe getting external mentorship. And a wellbeing plan is something where we look at our own habits, and that's an important first step because it's developing self-awareness. And how do you look at your own life's demands? And we've all got different demands going on. And can you identify when you need to take a break? When you're faced with challenges, do you use positive coping strategies or negative? So we're going to look at some examples of each, and then maybe in your own mind, you can just do a little tally up to what you use more of. hopefully it's more positive, but we all have tendencies to, you know, maybe yell or be aggressive, not eating proper meals. So some positive ways that we could deal with stress, you know, listening to music, exercising, reading, going for a walk, socializing. I know a lot of business owners, their social life is often the first thing that goes, but actually having that social time is really important. And we need to also remember that a work-life balance extends beyond just your basic physical needs. We need to look at psychological, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, as well as the workplace. So a good question to ask yourself is, what are you doing to support your overall well-being on a daily basis? And then you might be more active in some areas than others. And a good little table that you could use or implement, and even give this to your employees, is breaking all the areas down and then looking at what you currently do and then maybe implementing some things to try so that you're balancing out all the different areas in your life. So you could segment these however you like. And then thirdly, we've got our outside of work. So we can also implement and change our workplaces in lots of different ways, but we also need to make sure we're managing our time and environment outside of the workplace also. And then we could look at what are your biggest challenges outside of the workplace. And it could just be you're working so much you don't actually look after your physical body. Maybe your food and nutrition goes, lifestyle factors, mental health, resilience, community connections, spiritual aspects, or many other challenges that we go through in life. And again, it's looking at that whole circle of areas and making sure they're all balanced. And if you can imagine like a gyroscope, they're all out of balance, where they need to be in balance for it to work. And if you place each part of your life into that circle, you can think about, well, which one do I need to work on? And then some solutions are, again, boundaries, your hours, being aware of your triggers and redirecting the energy into other areas, investing in things for yourself, outsourcing, and your productivity. So every business is different and the need will be different as well for your business and your employees to grow and evolve. So some ways that could that I can help you in terms of my business is having these in-person meetings, looking at the implementation of some strategies, the management and analysis of strategies if you've already got them, getting employee and employer feedback, looking at the refinement of some plans if that's required, even providing resources, templates, printouts, and organising outside external resources if that's required. This is a short little story about a successful businessman who was on vacation, and the businessman met the fisherman and asked him what he did for his business. Then he gives his advice about how he could grow his business. I'll leave it here for a moment so you could read it. Change the slides now. And one more slide. So it's just a nice little reminder about what really matters in life and what do we do, why we do what we do. So I hope you've enjoyed this PowerPoint. I'll pass it back over to Helen.
Great. Thank you, Victoria. That's really interesting. So well-being is something that we all need to be thinking of, not just in terms of when things go wrong, but actually around prevention, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think some of the things you shared today were around that prevention. But I was going to ask you about the value of an employer as a role model inside an organisation to role model some of the behaviours.
Absolutely, and it's so important because your employees are so important to the business. Without people, your business doesn't really run. So looking after those employees is important, and if they can role model that, that's going to be really important for other employees as well. So that's a really good tactic to use, and it again allows them to take control of what they think the employees need as a whole, and they can also be that in-between person, gauging what the employees need, coming back to management and working together.
Okay, cool. And I see we've got a comment here on the screen, and I'll just read it because it's hard to speak and read at the same time, so I'll read it out. It says that it's not just about employees, but also about those who come into the workplace on a regular basis. So this person is probably referencing contractors and subcontractors that come onto site. It is easy to focus on employees, but others in your work-life balance. Do you want to comment on that, Victoria? I think that means it's easy to focus on employees rather than others.
Yes. Well, your employees, again, are part of your business. You're building up that culture. So if you can put those cultural boundaries in place and enhance the employees' well-being, if you've got contractors coming in, they're going to see your business as a really good example. We can look at that in terms of, like Google have all these really great things within their business, and that sort of allowed other businesses to implement them. So you could take your business as being a role model to those contractors or the outside people that are coming in, and it's all about being the example that you want to see around you as well.
I think also that in our confidence surveys that the Chamber runs every quarter, we see that the flexible working options and the working from home and the flexible working hours and those sorts of things that have been quite sticky since COVID lockdown, and many businesses are continuing to use those. And so that flexibility around work time, workplace, start and end days, how long the work week is, being more aware of the hours that you work, especially if you're working from home, because they can extend out quite long.
Easily, yes.
I think there's a cultural shift in there, isn't there?
Absolutely. And there's positives and negatives to both. Having the jobs or your list of jobs just to do in your time frame works for some people. Other people need that 9 to 5 set routine. So having that choice does help the employees and the businesses work to everyone's strengths. But I guess it's talking about the expectations with working from home, or is that person still taking regular breaks if they are working from home, or they're not wasting their time for your business. So
I also think it's quite important from a team perspective that the employees understand that the same sorts of rules or framework is just as important for the manager or the owner as well, so that they're not on call all the time for everybody, and to be available. They too need to take breaks, and that's very hard for many people who have a lot of staff or who have a lot of the decision making happening at that management level, rather than devolving that out more.
Yes, and I think again it does start by leading by example. So saying, actually, I'm not going to reply to emails after 6 p.m. and this is a business-wide rule. And that allows the employees to think, actually, the boss isn't doing that, so I don't have to do it. And then that helps, build that culture around well-being as well.
I think that another part of that culture is for everybody to live that culture, so to support each other in making sure that culture stays part of the business for everybody.
And I think as well, once people start opening up, you realise everyone's going through the same challenges, and actually it's okay to talk about it, and we just got to normalise it a bit more as well. And stress is a big part of lots of our lives. We've had to go through massive changes, and businesses have closed down, and jobs have been lost. So actually being more empathetic and understanding is what everyone needs right now, not being judgmental. And I think if you actually open that space up, you recognise that a lot of people are in that same boat.
It's give and take, isn't it,
Yeah.
for everybody? So sometimes employees have to give more, and sometimes they can take more.
Yeah.
So, and have more time for themselves and have more flexibility, and when it's needed.
Yes, exactly. And that's the balance, and it is just having a two-way open street conversation to make sure that everyone's, authentically on the same page.
Yeah, there certainly is a level of exhaustion, isn't there, that needs to be accepted and worked around. Okay, so thank you very much, Victoria. That's been really useful. I hope that that's given you all something to think about, and that there's something in there that you can implement for yourself or for your team, whether you're the boss or you're the newest employee into the company. Hopefully there's something in there for you as well. So just to let you know that we have a full calendar of events coming up at the Chamber of Commerce here in the Hutt Valley, and we have events in Upper Hutt and in Lower Hutt. Last night we had a fabulous new members function, didn't we?
It was great.
With about 40 or so people here in the Lower Hutt office, and it was great to welcome so many new members and for them to meet each other. Coming up is we have a free business training program launching on the 6th of August, and that is a free online training, so we all need to upskill. And this program is about providing people in business, employees and employers, with some NZQA recognised business training. So helping everyone to upskill and learn some new techniques and tools to implement locally. So that's on the 6th of August. We're launching that, and we will have Minister Chris Hipkins, Minister of Education, with us that day to help us launch that program. So take a look at our website for that and do book to come along. Ideal if you are a small or medium-sized business, or if you've got a larger business with staff who need training, no problem, or if you're starting out in business. Also, we have a Women in Business lunch coming up with keynote speaker Kristen Lundman from Hatch, and you may have heard of Hatch is transforming the shares and investment market. So that is on the 12th of August. Great to hear from Kristen. An economic update for Upper Hutt with Mayor Wayne Guppy on the 26th of August. And Synthesis Marketing is starting a program of free digital workshops from the 4th of August. The first one is about driving traffic to your website, and on the 19th of August about social media marketing and advertising, both topics that with so many businesses moving their businesses, at least in some part online, those two workshops will be really useful. So if you're a small or medium-sized business or a larger one, then please have a look at those on our website as well. Before I close, can I thank all the Chamber members who have joined us today. Thank you for your support of the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce and all our partners. Your membership fee is the way that we are paid every month to provide as much support as we can. I think this might be our 53rd live stream we've done now since COVID started last year. So thank you to our members. Please, as members, do share our online content and our Hutt Valley Business Weekly as well with your business colleagues, and we look forward to hearing from you shortly and seeing you at one of our events. Thank you very much, and thank you, Victoria, for joining us today.
Thank you.